I never thought becoming that guy would mean facing my deepest fears and embracing vulnerability. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The ground shook beneath my trembling feet. My heart raced like a drum in my chest. I stood there, surrounded by broken dreams and shattered promises. My hands felt cold, clammy, as they gripped the edge of the table. The sunlight poured in through the window, casting ghostly shadows in the corners of the room. It was supposed to be a day like any other, but it quickly spiraled into chaos. My best friend, Jace, had just revealed a secret he'd carried for years, and with it came a tidal wave of confusion. His dark eyes glistened with unshed tears as he admitted he'd been struggling with more than just his own demons. He had battled addiction in silence, whispering his pain to no one but the night that I had always looked up to him. Jace was the light in my darkest moments, always quick with a joke, a smile, or a hug. Now, here he was, breaking apart before my very eyes. The air grew heavy with unspoken words. Did I even know him at all? I thought back to our childhood, when we'd chase fireflies at dusk, our laughter ringing out free and loud. We were invincible then, lost in our hopes, oblivious to the battles that lay ahead. But now, darkness threatened to swallow him whole, and I felt utterly helpless. The room felt like it was closing in. My mind raced to the last time we hung out, sharing a large pizza, the laughter echoing off the walls. How had I not seen his struggles? How could I be so blind? The questions clawed at my insides, leaving me aching for answers. What do I do? I finally managed to whisper, my voice barely escaping my lips. Jace looked down, a broken smile creeping onto his face. You've already done enough, just be there. I felt my heart expand and contract, constricted by the weight of his words. The bond we shared had deepened, yet the thought of losing him twisted my gut. I hesitated, an invisible barrier blocking my path to comfort him. What if I said the wrong thing? What if my words plunged him deeper into despair? Outside, the world moved on, oblivious to our pain. I could hear distant sirens wailing, voices overlapping, and the rush of cars on the street. All I felt was silence. Every tick of the clock echoed in my ear like a countdown ticking away our chances. I glanced at Jace again, his face was pale, like a ghost. I could sense the immense burden crushing his spirit. His gaze locked onto mine, conveying a request for understanding, for compassion, for something more than the hollow platitudes everyone offered. My chest tightened as I realized what he was really asking for, vulnerability, but could I be that guy? The one who stared fear in the face and opened up to share my own struggles? Would I be able to break through my own walls long enough to help him find his way back to the light? Just as that thought landed, my phone buzzed violently on the table, sending a jolt through both of us. My heart dropped. Who could it be? I snatched it up before it could interrupt. The screen lit up with a notification that made my blood run cold. The numbers were stark and shocking, indicating my life was about to change forever. But just as quickly as that dread rose, I felt a flicker of hope. I looked back at Jace. We could do this together. But would it be enough? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The buzz of my phone lingered in the charged air like a warning bell, pulling my focus away from Jace's pain. I hesitated, uncertainty clawing at me as I considered the text glaring back at me. It was from my mother. We need to talk urgently. It's about Dad. The words twisted like a knife in my gut, suddenly expanding my emotional landscape, blotting out everything else that I didn't want to read it again. My father had always been a source of pride, a bedrock in my life. His laughter, his wisdom, his unwavering strength, those had been unwavering constants. Could something be wrong? Was the man who I'd depended on all these years crumbling just as Jace was? What's that? Jace's voice sliced through my spiraling thoughts. I quickly pocketed my phone, unwilling to burden him further. Nothing, I replied, but my heart raced, pounding against my ribs. The truth being, I felt the upheaval encroaching on my tranquility, and I wasn't ready to confront it. Jace caught my eye, sensing the shift in energy. That didn't sound like nothing. Tell me. There was a steadiness in his tone that surprised me. The way he pushed through his pain only highlighted my own cowardice. I think it might be about my dad. It doesn't seem good. The admission felt heavy, exploding like a burst dam, unleashing a torrent of dread that I had tightly controlled until that moment. Oh man, I'm really sorry. Jace's voice softened, a wave of empathy swirling through his vulnerability. Just as his darkness enveloped me, I felt the warmth of his sorrow mix with my own, creating an unexpected camaraderie and shared pain. That I don't know what I'm going to do if anything happens, I admitted, my voice wavering. He's always been my rock. I can't even imagine how to handle this. Jace gave me a weak smile, an attempt to buoy my spirits. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. You've got this. And, I'm here too, remember, I nodded, his words circulating in my mind. There was a flicker, an ember of hope buried beneath the weight of our challenges. If Jace could find the strength to battle his demons, maybe I could lean on him as he leaned on me. The thought was almost absurd, yet comforting in its own right, but just as my heart began to settle, a pair of bright blue eyes appeared at the door. Claire, the girl next door, peeked her head in. Her vibrant personality had always been a light in our mundane neighborhood, and yet, seeing her here now felt like a breath of fresh air amidst our suffocating tension. Hey, I brought cookies. She exclaimed brightly, holding up a tin box adorned with cheerful stickers. Thought you could use a pick-me-up. Claire didn't know how much we were struggling, didn't sense the weight hanging in the air. But perhaps she didn't have to. Her goodness was a flickering candle against the dark shadows we were both wrestling with. Jace immediately perked up, a grin breaking over his face. You're a lifesaver, Claire. The sight of his smile was like a sunbeam breaking through a storm, and I took solace in that fleeting moment of lightness. As she set the cookies on the table, I caught her eye. It wasn't charity, it was kindness, and it wrapped around us as a small reminder that there was still joy to be found even in dark times. A wave of gratitude washed over me, and I allowed myself to savor the simplicity of the moment. But even as laughter erupted between the three of us, my phone buzzed again, more ominously this time. The text came from an unknown number, something dark and foreboding. You're not ready for what's coming. Time's up. My gut twisted. Panic flared, curling around my thoughts like smoke. I glanced at Jace, who was now animatedly chatting with Claire, blissfully unaware of the growing storm brewing just beyond our fragile moment of calm. My heart sank as the realization dawned on me, the turmoil surrounding Jace and my father was just the beginning. What if the storm unleashed more than just our fears? I gripped the edge of the table, looking for a way to release the spiraling pressure building inside me. This wasn't just about Jace's battle or my father's well-being. I was staring down my own fears as well, unprepared for whatever was coming next. Everything's going to be fine, right? Claire's voice pulled me from my thoughts. I forced a smile as the panic in my chest shook my resolve. Was I supposed to reassure them without having the first clue about how to handle the chaos cascading through my world? The uncertainty loomed, and just like that, I realized the ground beneath us wasn't as stable as it once seemed. There was no guarantee that we would conquer our battles or escape the unknown realities unfolding. As the air thickened with tension, I couldn't shake the feeling that time was sliding through my fingers, more terrifying than anything I'd faced before. And as the world outside continued, oblivious and relentless, I clung to a dreadful certainty: the perfect storm was coming, whether we were ready for it or not. The afternoon light streamed through the window, casting playful patterns on the worn wooden floor. I could hear Jace and Claire laughing softly, the sweet aroma of cookies weaving through the air like a lullaby. It felt surreal, almost dreamlike, like we were players in a scene that belied the chaos rolling just out of sight, but even as the laughter ebbed and flowed, an undercurrent of dread wrapped around my heart like an iron chain. I couldn't shake the invasive feeling of being watched, as if the universe was pressing down on us, waiting for the inevitable fall. "Hey, Aiden, want to try one?" Claire's cheerful tone broke the spell of my thoughts. I watched as she offered the tray, her smile bright and genuine. I hesitated for a brief heartbeat before allowing myself to take a cookie. The simple act of sharing a momentary distraction did feel like a soft armor against the storm brewing on the horizon. "Thanks." I managed to mumble, my voice barely above a whisper. As I bit into the sweet treat, I was surprised by the rush of delight that danced over my taste buds. It felt so out of place amidst our heavy reality, yet it raised a hesitant smile on my face. If only happiness could come so easily in other aspects of our lives. See. Cookies cure everything. Claire chirped, her bright demeanor unfaltering. "Just about," Jace added, humor glinting in his eyes. I watched him carefully, noting the way his laughter faded momentarily, replaced by a shadow of something heavier, a flicker of introspection beneath the surface. It seemed odd, how we could share the same space and yet be miles apart in our hearts. "Hey, how about we play a game?" Claire proposed, breaking through our silent tension, her enthusiasm infectious. Something to get our minds off everything. It was the lifeboat I needed, a potential escape from the oppressive weight of looming uncertainties. Before I could respond, Claire had already darted into the other room for a deck of cards. I glanced at Jace, unsure of how to navigate the moment. He read the concern in my eyes, his own facade slipping just slightly. "Don't worry, we'll handle it," he said softly, as though he could read the suffocating fear swirling inside me, breaking down, of things spiraling out of control. "Just remember, you're not alone in this." That I nodded, torn between appreciation and disbelief. Was I really strong enough to face the oncoming tempest? Each text from that unknown number echoed louder in my mind, reminding me that the fight wasn't just with our own battles but also against a true unknown and what was about to breach the fragile barrier between us. Moments passed as we played, laughter interspersing the air as we lost ourselves in rounds of cards and playful banter. Yet, even when joy lit up the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that the reprieve was just a prelude to something darker on the horizon. When the doorbell rang, I felt the momentum of our fragile peace shatter slightly. The air shifted, and a chill raced through me. I traded quick glances with Jace and Claire before Jace stood up, curiosity drawing him toward the door. The simple creak of hinges felt like the opening notes of a storm anthem, ominous and echoing. "Who is it?" Claire called out, her excitement lingering around the door. "That I don't know," Jace answered, his tone thick with a mix of apprehension and curiosity. My heart raced as he turned the knob, an uneasy anticipation wrapping around me like a cold fog. I ran through the possibilities in my mind. Was it a neighbor? A delivery? Or had something sinister already begun to encroach upon our fragile sanctuary? The door swung open, revealing a figure I recognized all too well. Mark, an old friend of my dad, stood there, his expression grave, as though he had walked through flame to get to us. It wasn't just a looming presence, it was the palpable embodiment of the worry I had been grappling with, igniting every warning bell in my chest. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice trembling with the weight of unspoken words. My entire body went cold, and in that instant, everything I had been suppressing surged to the surface. Jace and Claire exchanged glances of confusion, but I felt paralyzed, caught in an emotional cyclone. All at once, the threat I had sensed felt real, and I knew that the storm was here. Yeah, Jace said slowly, stepping back to allow Mark inside. As he stepped over the threshold, I braced myself for the news that would rip through our fragile facade. Something told me that whatever came next would change everything, marking the end of our carefree moments amidst cookies and laughter. My world had become a calculation of swift breaths and whispered fears. I felt the ground beneath my feet quaking, knowing full well that what was coming wouldn't merely be a passing storm, it may very well be an earthquake, one that consumed everything in its path. And in that moment, standing on the brink of uncertainty, I understood one thing with unyielding clarity: we would face it together or we might just shatter apart. The air was thick with tension as Mark stepped inside, his presence changing the dynamic of our little bubble. Claire's bright smile faded, replaced by a questioning look, a reflection of my own spiraling thoughts. I felt heat rush to my cheeks, my heart hammering in my chest. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. Remember how I said I'd always be there if something happened? Mark started, his eyes, usually warm with familiarity, now burdened by unspoken truths. He swallowed hard, and I could see his hands trembling. This is one of those times that I stiffened, barely allowing my mind to wander towards the impossible what-ifs. I tried to focus on the laughter that was still echoing faintly in the corners of the room, the comfort of friendship that was just moments ago enveloping us. Jace stood beside me, his shoulders tense as he crossed his arms, silently demanding answers. "What's wrong?" Jace finally asked, his voice low but steady, cutting through the suffocating silence. Mark took a deep breath. "I came to warn you. Things are happening, things that could put you all in danger. You need to be careful." He glanced at Claire, who was frozen, cookies forgotten in her hands. "This isn't just about you, Aiden. There are people involved who might not have your best interests at heart." Confusion sliced through me, leaving an icy shard lodged in my gut. "What are you talking about?" My voice came out harsher than intended, steeped in disbelief that this could be our reality. "The unknown number you've been getting texts from, it's more serious than you think. There are people looking for you, people your dad had disagreements with years ago." "I barely got out in time," he said, shaking his head as if dispelling the memories that hung like shadows behind him. "They think you have something they want. Something your family has been keeping secret." That I felt lightheaded, grappling with his words as they shot through me like arrows dipped in uncertainty. "A secret? What secret?" "Your family, Aiden. The history, I am not sure how deep it goes, but your dad was involved in something dangerous." "I don't know everything," but Mark fumbled with his words, his expression pained. "He wanted to protect you, and that's why he's kept this from you." Jace moved closer to me, eyes darting between Mark and me, the confusion on his face sharpening into concern. "You're saying there are people out there that could hurt Aiden and us?" He clenched his fists, fury blurring his features. "You have to tell us everything, Mark." "That I know this sounds insane, believe me," Mark urged, his voice urgent. "But you have to trust me. I wouldn't come here if it wasn't serious. You all need to be careful. They're relentless." "What do you mean, relentless?" I pressed, panic creeping into my voice. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, a muted drum signaling imminent chaos. "People go missing, Aiden. You need to stay close, trust each other. And most importantly, don't let them isolate you. I can help, but you need to stay vigilant." The weight of his words crashed over me, and for the first time, the laughter and games felt distant, a distant memory washed in urgency. Everything I thought I knew flipped over, innocence eroding away under the relentless tide of truth. Then I felt a hungry darkness inching toward us, and my heart sank deeper. Are we in danger now? I don't know how long we have." "They could already be watching," he said, brushing a hand across his forehead. "You need to keep your phones close, turn on the alarms. If you see anyone suspicious." Before he could finish, a sudden sound shattered the moment. A loud bang echoed outside, sending jolts of fear rushing down my spine. The world outside grew eerily quiet after the explosion, a pulse within the silence that felt palpably dangerous. "What was that?" Claire whispered, her voice trembling, eyes darting towards the window. "Stay here," Jace urged, moving instinctively toward the wall where the window overlooked the street. He reached for the curtain, pulling it back just enough to peek outside. "Don't." I reached for him, desperation clawing at my insides. But it was too late. The moment the curtains parted, the atmosphere shifted, and we could all see figures, dark silhouettes moving across the street, circling closer to our sanctuary. Mark's expression twisted into alarm. "They're here. We have to move now." I turned to Jace and Claire, fear gripping our collective breaths. "What do we do?" Mark didn't hesitate. He pulled us toward the back door, urgency glinting in his eyes. "We can't stay here, we need to regroup." "Trust me," I won't let anything happen to you. But as we stumbled toward the door, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, an unfamiliar number flashing across the screen. The hairs on my neck lifted. I knew then that whatever lay ahead was far more formidable than any secret my family had hidden. And just like that, standing on the precipice of fear, I was faced with the chilling truth: this chaos was only beginning to unravel, pulling tighter into a haunting unknown, and I was no longer just facing my fears, I was becoming the very heartbeat of them. I could hardly breathe as we spilled out into the alley behind the house. Mark led the way, pushing us into the shadows as we huddled together, each of us grappling with the whirlwind of what had just happened. My heart raced. The late afternoon sun faded quickly, and with it, the sense of safety that had initially enveloped our gathering. A creeping dread began to choke my instincts. What's happening? Claire's voice quivered, her hands clasped tightly around herself as if to ward off the cold that had seeped into our bones. Mark shot her a look, his eyes pleading for comprehension. It's hard to explain right now, he said, his voice tight with urgency. Just stay close, and remember to trust anyone outside of us. Jace stood beside me, his presence anchoring me against the tidal wave of fear crashing through my mind. Curiously, I noticed a small flicker of resolve in his demeanor, as he clenched and unclenched his fists, preparing for whatever might come next. The brief silence felt oppressive as the echoes of chaos from the street wrapped around us. My phone continued to vibrate in my pocket, each buzz sending shockwaves of panic coursing through me. I fought against the urge to check it, swallowing hard, unwilling to expose myself to any further danger. Mark, what are we looking for? What if they find us? I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. Just stay alert, he commanded, darting glances around, his eyes scanning the shadows. Let's move further down. We can figure things out there. With every step we took deeper into the alley, the weight of uncertainty pressed heavier against my chest. I could feel the darkness creeping closer, like an unwanted companion lurking just out of sight. All of this felt so surreal. Only hours earlier, we had been tied in laughter, and now we faced this frightening unknown. Suddenly, Jace's phone buzzed sharply, and we all froze. Our eyes locked onto him, the air thick with unspoken tension. He slowly retrieved the device, glancing at the screen before mouthing a warning. It's another message from that number, he whispered, hesitant as he held it up to show us. The familiar unknown flashed before my eyes, igniting a flicker of dread. What does it say? I urged, my curiosity igniting alongside fear. You can't hide forever. We know where to find you. The words slipped out of his mouth with cold finality, hitting us like ice water. Mark's face tightened, reflecting the urgency of the moment. We have to act. Now. We can't let them gain any ground on us. We pressed onward. I caught a glimpse of Claire. Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears that threatened to spill over, creating a mixture of vulnerability and resilience that hit deep within me. It was both heartbreaking and encouraging. This wasn't just about fear, we were faced with the raw honesty of what lay before us. Then, amidst the confusion, I noticed a soft light flickering ahead in the unkempt alleyway. It glowed like a beacon, a stark contrast to our overwhelming chaos. I hesitated but felt drawn to it, a small flame of hope igniting inside my chest. Guys, over here. I directed their attention toward the light, my voice more steady than I felt. Mark nodded, guiding us cautiously toward it, where it turned out to be a small entrance to an abandoned shop with an open door, its interior illuminated by flickering candles scattered on the floor. We can hide in there for a moment, he suggested, peering inside. With no time to ponder the risks, we slipped into the darkness of the shop. The welcoming glow of the candles felt surreal compared to the shadows outside. As we gathered in a cluster, breathing heavily, Mark looked at us urgently. You need to start trusting me, he said, desperately searching our faces. There's something I haven't told you. It's bigger than just the texts and the threats. You have a right to know what's going on with your family. It's time. Now. Jace frowned, doubt mingling with concern. What good is that going to do us if we're being hunted? There's more at stake than just your safety, Mark insisted, his eyes darting to the entrance as if sensing danger creeping ever closer. It could be the key to helping us all escape this. Conflicted feelings surged within me, yearning to uncover the truth about what I had been shielded from, and the gut-wrenching fear that it might irrevocably change everything. As I opened my mouth to push back against his incessant need to share more, an unexpected sound interrupted. A loud crash resonated from the entrance, forward momentum sending chills down my spine. My heart dropped as I processed the intrusion. They were here, and we hadn't been quick enough. Hide! Mark ordered, urgency rising as panic flooded my veins. In a split-second decision, I ducked behind an old wooden counter, adrenaline surging as I strategized possible escape routes. Jace followed swiftly, while Claire squeezed in beside us, her breath hitching in fear. The weight of our choices layered upon us like bricks, each breath pulling me into the suffocating depths of uncertainty. The footsteps grew louder, their shadows elongating in the flickering candlelight. There, standing amidst the darkness, we faced a shocking revelation. The danger was real, and it was closing in on us. But as I peered out toward the chaotic scene, a familiar face emerged from the shadows, one that sent my heart racing, not from fear, but with a mix of shock and disbelief. The figure had been a ghost from my past, one I'd never expected to see again. Is that? My voice trailed off, disbelief choking my words. The truth cut deeper than any threat could, intertwining our fates in an unforeseen way as panic mingled tightly with hope. The flickering light of the candles danced wildly against the walls as I strained to see the familiar face emerging from the shadows. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, caught in the chokehold of disbelief. There he stood, Daniel, my brother, or at least the half-brother I had barely known as a child. He looked different, the boy I remembered lost beneath layers of anxiety and desperation. Now he wore the weight of secrets etched into every line of his face. Daniel, I whispered, barely able to gauge the confusion swirling in my thoughts. He hesitated, his eyes darting around the room, quickly realizing both the danger we were in and the gravity of his sudden reappearance. You shouldn't be here, he finally said, his voice strained, yet filled with an urgency that was palpable. What do you mean? We're being hunted. Jace interjected, his steady voice cracking with fear. How do you know about any of this? Daniel's face twisted in frustration as he paced closer to us, his own fear threatened to spill over. I know things. Things that could get you all killed if you don't listen. But right now, you need to trust me. Meeting me here was a risk. He paused, gulping down the weight of unshed words. I've been trying to protect you. I thought you were safe. In that moment, vulnerability washed over me, clashing fiercely with the chaos surging around us. My mind was a wild concoction of anger, confusion, and betrayal. You knew all along. And you didn't tell me. You had no idea what I've been going through. Trust me, I had my reasons, Daniel shot back, desperation tightening his voice. But right now, we have bigger problems. They're close, and we can't stay here. The urgency in his voice was an anchor amid the storm of emotions churning within me. I had yearned for family connection since I was a child, and now here was the estranged bond one had once longed for, standing before me, battling along with this new reality. Claire's whimper broke through the buzzing tension. What are we going to do? How can we get out of here? Her eyes brimmed with tears, and my heart ached for her fragility in this exacerbating moment. Follow me, Daniel urged, taking a backward glance towards the entrance as he signaled us onward. I felt a flicker of hope as we moved as one, but dread lurked in the corners of my mind. I found a way to the rooftop. It's our only chance. As we slipped out from our hiding spot and navigated past the wreckage of old furniture scattered throughout the store, I fought to process my emotions. This wasn't just a family reunion, it was entangled within the escalating danger we were now a part of. My brother knew about our threats, our family secrets, yet here he was, urging me to trust him, someone I barely knew. Daniel led the way, pressing his back against the crumbling walls, ensuring the shadows concealed us adequately. Jace kept close beside me, his solemn presence providing a fragile sense of safety. The flickering candles disappeared behind us as we climbed over debris, murmurs of uncertainty threading through our hurried exchanges. Why didn't you come back sooner? I finally whispered to Daniel, my heart hanging precariously on his response. What happened? He hesitated, as if the weight of the world rested heavily on his shoulders. I needed to get my life in order before I could come back, before I could help you. But I waited too long, and his voice trailed off, guilt lacing the air as we pushed onward. I could almost feel the impact of regrets crashing around us, mingling dangerously with the fear that now enveloped us. The burden I had carried seemed insufficiently heavy against the backdrop of his absence, and just as I managed to gather some resolve, we burst into the open air, exposed and vulnerable under a night sky bespeckled with stars, a stark contrast to the darkness of our previous moments. The rooftop offered a different perspective, a vantage point that hung precariously above our fears. Over there. Daniel pointed toward a neighboring building, a thin connection of fire escape spiraling down into the alley. That's our best chance to distance ourselves. I could see fear reflected in the eyes of my friends, uncertainty rumbling beneath the surface. But Daniel's direction was clear. We had moved beyond the point of turning back. As we climbed carefully down the fire escape, my heart quickened, a tumultuous mix of hope and dread igniting within me. Just as we reached the second-story railing, muttering voices invaded the air below, a jarring reminder that our time was running out. Did you hear that? Claire hissed, her nerves threatening to snap. A wave of panic surged over me. We have to move faster. With my heart pounding like a war drum, I forced us onward until we reached the alleyway, our bodies colliding in desperation as we made our escape. The moment felt fleeting, but something settled uneasily in my gut. As we huddled against the damp brick wall, gasping for breath and silently weighing our options, I turned towards Daniel, ready to confront our shared history. Why do they want us? What did we get caught in the middle of? Just then, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket once more, the sound cutting through the air like a dagger. My instinct screamed at me not to answer, yet in that heartbeat, I knew it was a choice I had to make. I pulled it out, gasping at the screen. It was another message from that unknown number. You can't escape your fate. Prepare for what comes next. My heart sank as I processed the words, a cruel reminder that our connection was thicker than blood, enmeshed in the webs that had ensnared us. No, I whispered, shaking as I looked toward Daniel, my voice trembling with realization. What have you gotten us into? And at that moment, as shadows loomed endlessly ahead of us, a shocking revelation rippled through the crowd gathered below. A figure stepped forth, his eyes glistening with a sinister familiarity. The cold bricks bit into my back as I pressed harder against the wall, the sound of my ragged breaths mingling with the murmurs from the gathering shadows below. Dimly illuminated by the flickering streetlights, I strained to make sense of what I was witnessing, my pulse racing with fear and confusion. The figure that emerged from the darkness sent a chill flowing heavy in my veins, the contours of his face hauntingly familiar. Marcus, Daniel said sharply, his voice barely more than a whisper, laced with betrayal and dread. The reality of my brother's past splintered wide open before me, like a gaping wound poised to bleed into our shared present. You know him? My voice cracked, an unsettling tremor pouring through every word. Daniel stood rigid, his jaw clenched tight, eyes darting between Marcus and the street stretching beyond us. We shared a past, he admitted, his breath hitching slightly. He was involved in things I didn't want to be a part of. But now's looking for us. That I could scarcely process the turmoil swirling around us. Marcus, the striking figure who claimed control beneath the draping shadows, stepped closer, a grin plastered over his face, a look that felt like a poisoned dart aimed directly at my heart. Well, if it isn't my estranged family. I always knew you'd come crawling back, Daniel, he exclaimed, his laughter echoing menacingly in the cold night. That a flood of memories crashed over me, fragments of the life I thought I understood unraveling like frayed threads. What does he want? I hissed, my voice low and trembling. My instinct screamed for me to flee, yet curiosity fettered my feet to the asphalt beneath us. Daniel clenched his fists, knuckles turning white. He wants control over this chaos. We find ourselves in the same chaos he orchestrated. He thinks if he gets us, he can pull some strings. Pull what strings? Jace interjected, his brow furrowing in confusion. What chaos? Marcus chuckled, his dark gaze flicking over us with scrutinizing interest. Oh, it's delightful, really. This is bigger than all of you combined. You stumbled right into the heart of a fight you don't even understand. The harsh truth settled uncomfortably in my stomach. We were pieces in a game I had no intention of playing. But then why had Daniel kept his distance for so long? Why now? Questions surfaced like waves crashing against a shore, beckoning for answers that felt forever out of reach. Despite the fear clawing at my insides, I couldn't help but feel the fragile hope Daniel had ignited. There was potential in our tangled roots, a chance to unravel this oppressive dread together. I took a step closer, attempting to reclaim control of my own wavering confidence. "You're wrong, Marcus. We're not part of your game." A chuckle traveled through him. "Is that so? Then tell me, how do you plan to escape from the truth that clings to you like a shadow?" At his taunting words, my feet shuffled in hesitation, while the reality of our situation loomed beneath the surface. There was something dark tethered to our past, haunting me like a ghost that wouldn't rest. "What do you know?" His smile widened, crooked and disingenuous. "Oh, dear cousin, I know everything. Even the family secrets Daniel tried to keep from you." A sudden tightness gripped my chest, like a vice wound too tightly around my heart. "What secrets?" But before Marcus could respond, a commotion erupted on the street, drawing my gaze away from his piercing stare. An engine revved aggressively, followed by the screech of tires intermingling with shouts and confusion. My heart raced as a squad of vehicles burst into view, their flashing lights dancing menacingly against the night that we have to go. Jace shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of urgency. His grip tightened around Claire's wrist, and she stumbled slightly as a new wave of panic washed over us. "Run!" Daniel commanded, his voice resolute. But as we turned to flee, Marcus stepped unexpectedly closer, his body blocking our path with the readiness of a predator poised to pounce. But I think you'll want to hear a little more first. His voice dripped with silver-toned malice. "You're not the only ones who've been hunted. And the truth is, it isn't just about you, dear family. It also includes your beloved friends here." A chill coursed through me, my chest tightening as dread took root. My eyes darted toward Jace and Claire, who looked as bewildered as I felt, caught in the crossfire of a reality we were way too deep into. "What the hell do you mean?" Jace challenged, but I could hear the tremor under his bravado. "Let's say there's a reason you were placed on the board in the first place. And it's only just begun." With a flick of his wrist, he pointed toward the blaring sirens that grew closer and closer. "You must choose sides wisely, or you'll lose everything that matters to you." My breath hitched at his words, the weight of impending disaster bearing down upon us like a pendulum swinging into chaos. I turned to Daniel, searching for answers that echoed in his guarded expression, but all I saw was fear mirrored back at me. Our only choice loomed before us, encapsulated in the night air charged with tension. As sirens howled loudly in the darkness, tearing down the illusion of safety, I was forced to confront an impending cliff, teetering on the edge. An alliance forged in desperation or shattered in fear. But as we stood, suspended in this moment, the air thick with unspoken truths and burdens that threatened to destroy us, I felt a gripping sensation tighten on my wrist. I looked down just as my phone buzzed again, the unknown number flashing ominously against the screen. "Time's running out," it read ominously. "Decide quickly. You're out of chances." And with those words echoing in my head, uncertainty crashed like waves against my resolve. Would I find a way to navigate this treacherous path ahead, or would I be swallowed whole by a darkness I had yet to understand? The sirens blared like a haunting symphony, closing in on us with unrelenting speed. Time felt elastic, stretching just enough for panic to settle in, yet compressing the weight of decisions we had to make. I glanced at Marcus, whose smug expression seemed to sharpen with every second that ticked past. The choice hung in the air, thick and suffocating. "I don't like this," Claire whispered, her voice steady only because she was gripping Jace's arm with a fierce intensity. It was a small act, but one that spoke volumes about the depth of her loyalty. Beneath the chaos of this confrontation, there was still a flicker of solidarity, a reminder that we weren't entirely alone. "Neither do I replied, desperation creeping into my voice. "But running is not going to solve anything. We need to know what he's talking about. Or we could just not die tonight," Jace countered, the bravado that had kept him grounded now cracking under uncertainty. We don't owe him anything. Being stubborn won't help us either. Daniel snapped, frustration mingling with fear. I could see his struggle, a brother torn between protecting me and confronting the shadows of his past. Marcus shifted closer, his voice dangerously soft. So, what will it be? Will you play the victim, or will you seize control? You've already been pulled into the game. It's only a matter of time before you realize just how intertwined your fates are. His gaze flicked to Jace and Claire, a predator relishing in the chaos. Your friends aren't innocent bystanders. They might surprise you with what they've concealed. My heart stuttered at his insinuation. Hints of betrayal, even from those I trusted most, clouded my mind. What do you mean? I demanded, feeling fury bubble beneath my dread. What secrets do they have? Why not let them explain? Marcus leaned back, a smile dancing across his lips, as if he were indulging in our pain. It'll be thoroughly entertaining. Shut up. Daniel shouted, erupting like a dam finally giving way. You think you're clever, Marcus? You think playing psychological warfare will rattle us? You're wrong. I stepped between them, trying to reclaim some semblance of control over the spiraling chaos. All this time you've known something you didn't tell me, didn't you? I turned to Daniel. What is he talking about? What do they know? I didn't. He began but fell silent, his brow furrowing with internal conflict. This was a moment I didn't understand. A fracture had formed not just between us and Marcus, but also among ourselves. Then, as if the universe saw fit to reduce our already tenuous grasp on stability, the lights from the oncoming vehicles poured down the street ahead, illuminating a wall of blue and red that painted our future in peril. A thrumming dread bounced between us like a live wire. Take your pick, heads or tails. I'd hurry if I were you. Marcus laughed darkly, the delight of the chase dancing across his features. But it was the flicker of something else, as if he felt a twinge of anticipation, not just for our dread, but for whatever plan he had wrought in our unfolding narrative. Something deep within me yearned for answers. I took a breath, reminding myself of the ties that bound us. Jace, Claire, you're part of this too. If there's something more, I need you to be honest with me right now. Time isn't on our side. Just stop. Jace shouted, his frustration boiling over. You don't understand. We were trying to keep you safe. From what? I pressed, feeling desperation claw at my chest again. Tell me. Claire stepped forward now, her eyes glistening, but there was fire behind them. There are events we couldn't change. Jace and I have been dealing with our own mess, and we didn't want to drag you into this. Then it's already too late. I insisted, looking from one to another, hoping for solidarity in this turbulent sea of truths and deception. We're already here, already entangled. The tension ratcheted up, and then Jace, taking a deep breath, launched into an explanation, his words tumbling out in a rush. There's a network group that's been watching our movements. The moment you stepped into our lives, you became a target. One we can't fully protect you from. We didn't want to scare you. Then tell me everything. My voice rose, fear morphing into furious determination. Don't hold anything back. In that moment, just as Jace began to answer, another blaring siren erupted from behind, and Marcus stepped back, amusement glinting in his eyes. Isn't it glorious? The stakes are raised, and the audience is almost complete. The world spun wildly at the realization. As I locked eyes with Daniel, a silent understanding passed between us. We couldn't let fear dictate our next move. But before we could solidify our plans, the sirens grew nearer, the sound amplifying the chaotic clash of emotions enveloping us like a storm. Then, suddenly, Jace's phone buzzed in his pocket, drawing our attention. He pulled it out to check the message as horror washed over his face. No, Jace. I felt my heart skip a beat as he turned the screen to show us the message from yet another unknown number. You're running out of time. They know you're at the old warehouse. They're coming for your family. Panic ignited within me like fire to dry tinder. What the hell, Jace? What kind of threat is this? but as the echoes of uncertainty loomed over us, another realization snatched at the frayed edges of my courage. Marcus was grinning, relishing the chaos had deftly crafted, and suddenly, an ally in the dark seemed like the only option left. Get ready, I whispered to Daniel, fear twisting my gut as the reality of our tenuous situation settled like a heavy cloak on my shoulders. We either have to confront danger together or get swallowed by this storm. Amid the cacophony of sirens and shadowy conspiracies, where trust hung by the thinnest of threads, I realized that whatever truths lay ahead were about to be unearthed whether we wanted them to be or not. The air felt charged with an electric tension that threatened to shatter the fragile connections we had forged amidst the chaos. As Jace cradled his phone, the looming threat felt more palpable than ever. The sirens shrieked behind us, intruding upon the fragile bubble of our intense exchange as if the universe mocked our desperate attempts to comprehend it all. Who could know where we are? Claire whispered, her voice trembling as she clutched Jace's arm tighter. There was fear flaring in her eyes, a fear I shared, as if we were dandelion seeds scattered by a storm, tumbling toward an uncertain fate that I don't know. Jace muttered, his hands shaking slightly. But if they're here for my family, his voice trailed off, leaving an echo of dread hanging over us. I watched as the weight of responsibility loomed on him. His bravery was crumbling, and anger coursed through me at the idea of someone placing that burden on him. With each tick of the clock, it felt like we were spiraling deeper into Marcus' twisted game, and I clutched that idea like a lifeline. No one is going to get hurt because of this, I vowed, my resolve solidifying. We will not let fear dictate our actions. We need a plan, now. I turned to Daniel, who still looked torn, caught between the fear of our current plight and his loyalty to me. What do we do? He asked, his voice low, almost lost beneath the wailing sirens. Before I could answer, Marcus interjected, his mocking laughter slicing through the tension. Oh, how delightful. The misguided bravery of youth. But what can you hope to achieve? Look around you, time is slipping, and choices are running thin. You might come to discover, dear friends, that those closest to you can often become your greatest threat. Jace shot Marcus a furious glance. You're just playing with us, trying to scare us. We won't let you win. Win? Marcus scoffed, leaning in closer, eyes gleaming with mischief. For me, this is about distraction, the art of manipulation. Every move sets off a chain reaction, and you're already submerged in this whirlpool of your own making. Suddenly, I felt a surge of anger rise within me, breaking through my fear. You think we're just pawns in your game? You think we'll bow down to your twisted mind games? You're wrong. We're more than that. A flicker of surprise crossed his face as he took a step back, then he clapped slowly, the sound echoing as he relished my defiance. Ah, the fire. Interesting. But fire only burns so long without fuel. It struck me then this wasn't about him asserting dominance. He wanted to ignite a conflict. Maybe the real game was how far he could push us before we shattered. With newfound clarity, I drew the others in closer, focusing on the warmth of solidarity. Whatever this is, whatever Marcus is trying to achieve, we stand together. I declared, my heart racing as I spoke. Tell me everything, Jace and Claire. We can solve this together. We can face this together, and we will find a way to keep your family safe. Jace inhaled sharply, the truth burning in his eyes. The group watching us they know about the past. Our pasts are interlinked, Claire's and mine. We were trying to handle it ourselves because we didn't want you to get dragged into it. Dragged into what? I urged, my urgency spilling over. What do they know? Claire stepped forward, squeezing Jace's hand before facing me. Jace's family has been involved with this network for a long time. They had to deal with the repercussions of choices made in the past, things that they thought were buried. But with you, her voice wavered, apprehension creeping in. They see you as a threat, or maybe an opportunity to exploit. My heart sank at the weight of her words, the implications crashing over me. The idea of being some pawn in a sinister game sent a shudder down my spine. So, people have been watching me because of Jace? Yes, Jace whispered, anguish etching his features. That's why we didn't want you to get involved. If they can use you against us. Another surge of dread filled the gap between us like an uninvited guest, threatening to seep into our bones. We have to act now, I urged, feeling a surge of urgency. We need to protect your family, all of us. If Marcus is right, then they're targeting you all because of my presence. Suddenly, the lights from the approaching vehicles illuminated the warehouse behind us, revealing shadows slipping out from the alleyways. It was an unwelcome reality check. We needed to employ the very strengths this crisis had summoned within us, the strength of unity. Just then, a figure emerged from the depths of the shadow, someone I hadn't anticipated seeing, a face from my past I had tried to forget. It was Oliver, my old friend turned adversary, his expression drawn and troubled yet sharp in the reflections of the flashing lights. "Where the hell have you been?" I gasped, stunned by his sudden appearance amidst this brewing storm. The world around us felt like it slowed, the sirens' wails becoming a distant hum, and I could see the shock in my friend's eyes at this unexpected twist. Oliver looked between me and Marcus, fear and defiance swirling in his gaze. "Just trying to protect you, Sarah." "But it seems I might have arrived too late," Oliver said, concern etched deep in his brow. "We need to get out of here now." "Protect me from what?" My chest tightened at the new layer of danger unfolding before us. "I'll explain everything," Oliver promised, his voice low and resolute. "But right now, we have to go. The game has only just begun, and it's about to spiral out of control." Panic rose within me, intertwining with uncertainty. I felt the weight of Amanda's fears return, an echo of all I had spent a lifetime running from. As we caught our breath, grappling with the revelations coursing through us, the sirens crescendoed, echoing the reality crashing upon us. The time for safe decisions was over, and the choices we made now would ripple through the fabric of our fates. As we prepared to run, another message pinged on Jace's phone, the screen lighting up with a new, ominous warning. "They're already here." My breath caught as we locked eyes again, the flicker of resolve dancing amidst the storm. We had been pushed to the edge, but we would decide how this story was written. Would we stand together, or would we succumb to the shadows threatening to engulf us? With uncertainty shadowing every step, we turned to face the chaos head-on. The truth lay buried beneath layers of deception, and with every heartbeat, we were pressed to confront the very essence of what it meant to be entangled in each other's lives. The air was electric with anticipation as we stood on that rooftop, our world reduced to flickering shadows and unyielding realities. The sirens wailed in the distance, piercing through the chaos, and with every second that passed, fear clung to our skin like a second layer. Yet amid the noise and confusion, a single, undeniable truth pulsed within me: we were in this together, bound by far more than our shared struggles or the secrets that had brought us to this point. As we huddled close, I caught a glimpse over the edge, seeing the patrol cars swirl into the alley. "What do we do?" Claire's voice trembled, her brow furrowing into a mixture of fear and determination. She clutched Jace's arm as if he were a tether to the solid ground we had been swept away from. "Focus on each moment," Jace replied, the strength in his voice surprising even me. "If we can just figure out how to move forward, then maybe we have a shot at escaping this nightmare." My heart raced, fueled by desperation. "We need a plan," I said, more to myself than the others. The gravity of our situation weighed heavily upon us, but I felt a surge of resolve as Daniel stepped forward, his expression shifting from fear to fervor. He had returned from the shadows, our family bond implicating us in something larger than ourselves. "I know places we can go, allies who can help us sort this out. But we have to trust each other completely," Daniel said, his voice steadying. "This isn't just Marcus trying to sabotage our lives. This network has deep roots, and once it sinks its teeth into you, it won't let go." "Then let's cut the roots," I declared, feeling the flicker of bravery in my chest inside a fire through the group. "If Marcus knows our weaknesses, then we've got to stay ahead of him. As a family, we can counteract everything he's planning. Isn't that what we've all been fighting for? A chance at freedom." The warmth of shared intent flooded through me as Claire, Jace, and Daniel exchanged determined glances. The storm outside mirrored the whirlwind of emotions inside. Uncertainty mingled with an unwavering sense of unity. Just as we were about to move, a sudden crash rang through the alley, the unmistakable sound of chaos unraveling almost within reach. My heart thundered as Marcus appeared from the shadows again, a sly smile creeping on his face. "You really think running will save you?" "Oh, how naive," he said, amusement tinting his voice with cruelty. "Marcus," I met his gaze, meeting his darkness with my own fierce light. "You'll never win this game. You may know where we've been, but you don't know who we are now." A flicker of surprise crossed his face, but then he shrugged it off, regaining his menacing facade. "Well, see about that, Aiden. You may have allies now, but remember, everything you love can be turned against you." The air crackled with tension, and the sirens grew ever closer. Each pulse of fear throbbed in time with my heartbeat, urging us to move, to break free from the puppeteer's strings that threatened to ensnare us. "Let's go," I urged, my voice cracking the spell that had ensnared our group in Marcus' intoxicating threat. We turned, moving as a unit, leaping down the fire escape with the natural grace of honed instincts. As we hurried down toward the alley, the world around us erupted in a cacophony of confusion, a symphony of sirens fading into the night. The urgency of footsteps hammering against the pavement surged behind us. Emerging into the embrace of the alley, I could feel every sense heightening, pulling us deeper into our fragmented realities. What lay ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, I felt a glimmer of clarity. We weren't simply fleeing, we were fighting back. The moment our feet hit the ground, Oliver appeared from an adjacent path, urgency outlining his features. "This way," he called, motioning us to follow him. We trusted him, though uncertainty buzzed in the air like an electric current. But just as we shifted toward him, a figure materialized from the shadows behind Oliver. "Stop." The voice was chilling and authoritative, as Marcus moved to block our path. But this time, the fear flickering in my heart was laced with a burning resolve to protect everyone I had grown to care for. "Take another step, and we won't hesitate," Jace declared fiercely, stalling the tension. "You're outnumbered." Am I? Marcus shot back, arrogance radiating from him like heat. "You think you've won by merely existing side by side? You're still the same pawns on this board." Yet, in that charged moment of uncertainty, I felt the weight of hidden truth crack wide open, spilling forth like a dam breaking. "You don't know anything about us. We've already won," I said, gripping onto the hope tethering me to my friends. "We aren't just pawns." "Well, turn the tide, together," Marcus faltered, surprise darting across his features as I pressed forward, illuminating the truth of our shared bonds. "You can threaten us, shatter our past, but you can't destroy who we've become." The weight of that declaration hung heavy in the air, filling the space between accusations and defenses with vulnerability, a thread connecting us despite the tumult swirling just out of reach. "You truly believe that?" he marveled, amusement mingling with something more profound, a flicker of uncertainty. "You'll soon see. Familiar faces can be your downfall. Just remember, blood runs thicker than water." In that heartbeat of silence, clarity surged. Marcus had underestimated the essence of family, forged not just through blood, but through choice, sacrifice, and the loving bonds woven over years of shared pain and laughter. "Enough," I rasped, steeling myself against his mockery. "Whatever shadows you think loom over us won't define us. You have no control here." And with that final statement ignited my will to reclaim our destinies from the grasp of chaos. The sirens continued to wail, echoing the urgency racing through my veins, but fear transformed into certainty, and we charged forward as one. Each step began to feel like a promising and unspoken vow to face whatever storm awaited us together. As we moved, I would not let the darkness dictate our fate, I would embrace the light of our unity in defiance of division. Go. I shouted to my friends as we burst forward in an unyielding wave, battling through the barriers of our past, ready to carve a more honest future from the depths of this chaos. In that moment, I hurled my fears aside, chased by the flickering brightness that danced around us, ready to embrace what lay ahead. The memory of Marcus dimmed beneath the brilliance of our unity. I felt alive, free from the constraints of control that had imprisoned me for far too long. As we zigzagged through the alleyways, the adrenaline rushing through my veins wrapped me in the embrace of hope, the bond we nurtured fueling the fire within. Together, we would face our destinies head-on, and as Marcus' shadows faded into the distance, I knew then that every choice we made from here on out would be our own. Together, we would forge a path through this storm wherever it might lead. Remember, I called back to them, my heart pounding fiercely, we're not just trying to survive. We are reclaiming our lives, and with that, a fierce joy erupted within me, igniting a spark of possibility as we barreled toward the horizon, chasing our next breath, our next chance to live fully, together, transformed by the truth of who we had become. In that moment, all divided fears fell away. We were not merely fleeing from shadows, we were stepping into the light. And as we closed in on the threshold of change, united, we found relentless hope splintering through the silence, echoing our fervent belief, we were ready to embrace freedom at last. With each footfall, I whispered to myself, we can overcome anything. Because together, we're unstoppable, ready to carve our own destinies, ready to ignite the fire of our truth into the world. Time may have once been filled with darkness, but now, in each other's presence, we were incandescent, burning brightly, fierce against the dark.